Welcome to Fly Nubian Money, where we help you master your mindset and maximize your money.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today here with Fly Nubian Money and these Fly Nubian Queens. Today, we are talking about something that is hitting so close to home for me. But let me introduce you guys to these beautiful queens right here, okay? Okay, so today we have Venessa, the beautiful Venessa, and she is an entrepreneur. We have Felice, therapist and mindset coach. We have Nomalanga, M3 advocate, marriage, motherhood, and moneymaking. And I will be your host today. I'm Shalaye Camillo from Boston, Massachusetts, Beantown in the house. And I'm the owner and CEO of Vital Source Realty. So let's get into this topic. This is definitely something that hits very close to home. Like I said, I live in Boston and we are a city. It's an urban city. So violence definitely hits the city, and we're coming up on summertime and we're bracing as a city sometimes for what's going to happen. So we're discussing Oakland's only Black-owned fine dining restaurant, and it was shot up, forcing it to close. Okay, that is tragic. And this isn't just about the loss of a restaurant. It's about the struggles that Black entrepreneurs face daily. We often don't realize the weight of Black business owners carry dealing with violence, underfunding, and a lack of support. So today we're talking about how violence impacts Black businesses and why we need to protect and support Black businesses and what we can do to make sure that Black entrepreneurship thrives. Okay, so we are going to go to a video about this tragic event, and we'll be right back at you.
Thank you, Oakland. I appreciate this shit. All the fucking hard work, 20 years of fucking working. This is what y'all gave me. Thank you, I appreciate it so much. Shit is just great, man. Worked so fucking hard to build this shit. So many fucking late nights, early mornings for this punk ass shit right here. Coward ass, bitch ass shit right here. Thank you. Thank you so fucking much, Oakland. I appreciate that shit, bro. All you niggas with this punk ass, phony ass, dumb ass beef shit y'all got going on, man. I appreciate y'all, bro. Y'all brought that punk ass shit to a fucking restaurant, the only Black-owned fine dining restaurant that we have. Thank you. Thank you. I give up. Thank you. I appreciate it.
That is so unfortunate and tragic. So I want to get you ladies' reactions. Nomalanga, what was your reaction to that video, and what was your visceral feeling seeing that?
Well, obviously it's sad when you build up something and then you end up seeing it all fall apart. But one of the first rules of real estate and business is location, location, location. And taking into account where your location is and what you're prone to. I think sometimes there are precautions that you have to take. I'm going to age myself and say, like back in the 90s when I was in college, we used to go to what were called Black clubs. And I remember those days that they had a lot of security. And when you went, I went to college in Providence, which is a college town. So there were white clubs, rave clubs, Black clubs, and what have you. But I do remember that whenever we go to the Black clubs, there just be extra security, because some of them were in locations where unfortunately
Okay, you went on mute. Nomalanga, we can't hear you. We missed out on your last comment there. Okay. She's still on mute. So, but she did bring up a very important aspect of deciding where you're going to put your business, location. But I think it's just tragic that when you want to do something that's in a Black community or Black and brown community, you want to do something for us, then something like this happens. Vanessa, what do you think about that?
As an entrepreneur watching that video, it really gave me chills, because I really feel the pain that when he says he's up late working, up early mornings, up all night, that shit is real. You know, so it really gave me chills to think about somebody coming up in there and shooting up something that this man, I know that he's worked immensely hard for. And then to be able to fund and open a fine dining restaurant anywhere as a Black person in America is a battle within itself. So, I mean, completely heartbreaking. I think that when we look at things like gentrification, you know, I went to school for planning, which is basically city planning, studying how developments and cities grow. And we talk about things like gentrification and people moving in, taking over our cities, businesses leaving our cities, taking money, tax funding, et cetera, and jobs away. And I think we really got to look at things like this, like, and how we raise our children, and really cooperative economics, and how the way we treat our Black businesses, you know, because I bet you they wouldn't have walked up in a suburban restaurant and did that. So what is it about the confidence or respect that people in our community have to go disrespect a business like that?
Yes.
So as an entrepreneur, I mean, that video just really pissed me off. Like I said, it gave me chills, because I understand what it's like to build something and stay up all night working. I mean, generally when you're an entrepreneur, you're working well beyond 40 hours a week. Sometimes I'm in 80 hours a week of work. There's no days off. So it's just,
I
it's
resonate with
really
that.
disheartening.
I
Yeah.
resonate with that too. Dr. Felice, what do you have to say about what that business owner might be feeling and going through? Like at first when he was saying, you know, thank you, Oakland, I thought he was saying like, thank you for the support. But then it also was like, thank you, I'm done with this shit. Like, thank you, I'm done, I'm giving up. What do you have to say about where his mental state might be with that situation?
Well, what I heard from him was deep pain, disappointment. I heard some weariness in his soul. I heard the years of wanting to do something for yourself and to see it possibly all go away with one fatal swoop of a bad choice that someone made. And so I felt that from him. Like I felt it. I felt the discouragement that he's possibly feeling. Like it's not apples and oranges when it comes to Black entrepreneurs. Like we don't get the same grants, we don't get the same funding. So for us to really go in there and make something, he did put in those hours in that sweat equity that, you know, how do you even put a value on the sweat equity? And so I felt all of that for him. And, you know, I'm from Brooklyn, but I live in Charlotte, and I call Charlotte an equal opportunity crime city, because like they hit all sides of towns. So it really doesn't matter what location you live in, everybody can hit here. So it's like, you know, it's unfortunate. And don't get me wrong, I'd rather be equal opportunity, because I get really sick and tired of seeing things happening in
just
the
to us
brown communities. I really do. And so, and I'm like, Venessa was saying, that gentrification, like it's so precious when we have Black people doing really good things to elevate ourselves and elevate our experiences, right? Instead of the regular, there's nothing wrong with a bodega. Like that's where my childhood memories come from. Right. But elevate us, right? To have fine dining. And so our children are exposed and able to see that Black people also have elegance
and in our community, and not having to go out of the community to do that.
And that's actually our heritage, is to have those types of things. So to see it And then
Yes.
for someone to come in and in one fatal swoop be able to damage all of that and remove all that and then put a stigma added to it like that, that's heartbreaking.
It is. It is. So, guys, we're going to go to a commercial break. But when I get back, when we get back, I wanted to talk about insurance, because that's all I was thinking when I was watching that video. Like, oh my God, I hope he had the adequate insurance. And Venessa, I wanted to know if you have a brick and mortar, if you can speak to that, if you have a brick and mortar, or if you don't, like, do you have errors and omissions and things like that? But we'll be right back, guys.
Absolutely.
It's a good show right here. But I'm biased. If you are just tuning in, you are watching Fly Nubian Money, where we help you master your mindset and maximize your money. My name is Tiara Williams. I'm also known as Miss Black Hollywood, and I'm the proud producer of this show because it is lit. If you want to receive notifications for when we go live Monday through Friday, 1 to 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. All you have to do is text the word Queens to 87948. That's Queens to 87948. That's QUEENS to 87948. Also, if you want to grow your money and not blow your money, all you have to do is go to flynubianmoney.com. There's all kinds of resources, there's courses, there's free giveaways. There's just no reason to be broke in 2025. All you have to do is go to flynubianmoney.com. Obviously, you don't want to be entertained here. You want to know enough to grow. Wait, I need to put that on a shirt. You got to know to grow. Got to know to grow. So know and grow with flynubianmoney.com.
You got to know to grow, y'all. Know to grow. So Venessa, you have a business, and ladies, if any of you have a brick and mortar business, I'd love to hear from you. So my brokerage is 100% virtual. And I purposely did not go out and get a brick and mortar office because I'm like, real estate, I don't need that. I was foreseeing back in 2016 that I didn't need that. But what kind of financial strain does violence like this put on Black entrepreneurs and their families? And specifically when it comes to having money to rebuild, if he's going to do that. I know that, like in real estate, even now, finding out, like some of my clients have had major catastrophes with their homes, like fire or water damage, and finding out that they're underinsured, and that is a major setback. So what do you think about that?
So my company, we have a brick and mortar, but it's we really don't use it legally. As a construction company, I have to have a physical place of business, but we don't really do or conduct any business there. Mm-hmm. So in terms of people coming and getting hurt, but I do have to carry general liability insurance up to $1 million per incident. I have to carry workers' comp insurance, which is extremely expensive in the construction industry. And it just sort of protects my company and also mine, even though I'm set up as a corporation. If you don't have certain insurances, you can be held liable still in California, even with the corporation. So you have to have certain insurances and liabilities just to protect yourself. And I really hope that this gentleman had some of those, incidental. I don't know the restaurant industry, but I feel like it's a high volume of people coming in and out. So
Yes.
I'm pretty sure that he had to have some sort of insurances. California is very strict on insurances when it comes to businesses. So I'm sure as a requirement, he at least probably had to have like $1 million policy in place for any type of incidents like this. And so I'm hoping that it was paid up and in full. But going back, like you said, when it's your passion and you put all that work in, all that shit don't even matter. Because I mean, the $1 million he's probably put well over sweat equity, $1 million worth of work in what he was doing. So we just, when we started this, I said, we really have to raise our children, especially in our community. As I know that this can happen everywhere, but growing up, I grew up in an inner city, and it was a lot more security, bars, cameras where we were specifically, and I internalized that this area is more dangerous. So it's with Black businesses, we have to raise our children just better, because there is no way that you should be in this man's restaurant or anywhere shooting in public. Let's just start there. But then now you're going into a business in your community and you're shooting in public over, it, yeah,
It's
I'm
hard.
down. It is hard because I just feel for this gentleman. I really do.
And so talking about the financial aspect of it, he did set up a GoFundMe page. So they've raised $38,000 so far and have a $50,000 goal. And $50,000, I feel like that just barely covers it. I mean, has employees and, inventory and food that's going to go bad. Like
Mm-hmm.
this has to be a major undertaking just to deal with the fallout of it. So they were forced to close. And this act of violence, it isn't just physical damage like we were just talking about. And that's what they're saying right here. It destroyed part of his future. Felice,
Mm-hmm.
how do incidents like this impact the community as a whole when something like this happens? I know for me, this was like, I believe last year. And so I live in Mattapan, Massachusetts, which is a township of Boston. And it used to be called Murder Pan. Okay. Mattapan has a horrible rep as it relates to like the media and things like that. I love Mattapan. I love my town. I love living here. But around the corner about a year ago, on our main drag, it's called Blue Hill Ave. There's a movie about it. Y'all can go see that or look for that. There's a barbershop, and a young kid, he was a teenager, got killed in the barbershop. And I remember the day because I was coming down the street and I saw everything blocked off, and I'm like, what is going on? And it was a kid. He wasn't a perfect teenager or anything like that, but he was on the right track. And I feel like sometimes, even when a child is, or a teenager or young adult, whatever, they're on the right track, but they've been into some stuff finds them. Like he wasn't into anything active, but like this found him. Like he had posted about where he was, and then some enemies from whatever incident that was like months or years prior, a year prior, came and found him and like took revenge or whatever like that. So how does this impact our community as a whole? Because yes, it happened to the business owner. Of course, it's going to impact the businesses around it too. And just like having everybody scared. I remember being like scared that this was right around the corner from me, even though it wasn't anyone in my neighborhood that did anything, but it happened in my neighborhood. So
what I think, what I know is, a lot of Black and brown communities live in consistent trauma, right? If it's not real trauma happening on the scene, it's perceived, it's anticipated. And what that can do, especially to young children and, our children, this is the most anxious generation ever. On so many levels. When I went to school, my mother just had to trust that I was going to come back home. Like I didn't have a tracking device on me. Mm-hmm. So she had to just trust that I was going to get back home. But what does that do? You're not as anxious. Now we have to track our children. We track our friends. We track our family members because of anticipatory trauma. With things like this, these people just having a good time sitting in a restaurant, and somebody decides to just come in and start shooting. Can you imagine the trauma? So you have a lot of people who are very, very anxious about going out, going in movie theaters, now going in restaurants, and just everyday things that people should be able to do. Yes. That now you have to think 10 times. Like now, I'm just going to keep it real. When I go into places, I need to know where the exits are. Yes. I need to know where all the exits are. I need to know where I'm situated. I don't do anything where it's too many people in one spot. Can I face the door so I can see if somebody's coming? I have to always be sober and alert about my surroundings. That's where we are today, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but too much of it when you can't relax and just be in the moment.
Right. It's like hypervigilance.
Right. That's not natural. And then what it does to the community, think about the economics that's going to happen to this community. Now you don't have an elevated level experience that was Black owned that brings this culture to the culture, but not just for our culture, but for other cultures. So I'll give an example. I went to Charleston last month, and Charleston, rich Black history. Mm-hmm. We couldn't find a Black restaurant if you wanted to. I mean, if it was right there, and even the ones that were there weren't open. So we couldn't get a good Black meal in
Yes.
Charleston, South Carolina, and then come to find out they're saying that Charleston is the new white Atlanta. So that is huge. So when you're trying to go and have an experience and you can't find culture there, can you imagine what that economic impact means for us? Where are our people?
Yes.
Why are they not a part of the economic mobility that is happening in a very vibrant city? Charleston is off the chain. And so that really hurt our experience, that I couldn't have a cultural experience in a town that is known for their culture. So those that impact is—
You just touched on something,
Now-
Felice. You just touched on a couple of things for me, Felice. That hypervigilance, number one. I feel it. I feel it sometimes when I'm out, especially with my two girls. I'm looking for the exits, and it's not something that is I'm even consciously doing. It's like I'm just subconsciously scanning, right? And especially when you're in certain areas and things like that, like, oh, something might pop off, and we shouldn't have to live like that. And then another thing that you touched on that's super important is the culture. And having our culture available and accessible to other people. When we talk about fine dining in this country, especially since we're supposed to be this melting pot, right? When we talk about fine dining, or when they talk about fine dining, what are they really thinking about? They're thinking about Italian, French, things like that. They should be thinking about, when they think about fine dining, oh, Black cuisine, African cuisine from different countries and things like that. And then you have this establishment that was trying to establish something like that. And
In
then
Oakland.
in Oakland.
In Oakland, the same fabric, that same deep fabric in Oakland.
Yes.
We should not only have one fine restaurant in Oakland.
Right.
It should be a plethora of them.
Yep. I say it all the time, even in my area. It's like, and I will applaud Boston. The city of Boston is definitely giving out more permits for Black-owned restaurants and things like that. So we really didn't have much of that. There may have been like 3, over the past, like in the past, like when I was growing up. And now we have a lot of Black-owned restaurants that are popping up, and I love it. Black-owned, like supper clubs and stuff like that. I love that. But it's unfortunate that you have this happen in a Black-owned establishment. And my question is, have they even caught the person who did it? But all right, we're going to go to a break, y'all. And when we come back, I have a question for you, Nomalanga. And I want to really know the impact of the reputation of this business or businesses around this business or Black businesses in general. So we'll be right back.
I know you're busy, you got things to do, and you can't take us on the go with you every single day. Good news for you. We are now on Spotify. So if you can't watch us, now you can listen to us on Spotify. Search Fly Nubian Money and all the episodes shall appear. All you have to do is like, subscribe, leave a 5-star rating, leave some comments, tell people how you love us so that when other people come along and are looking for a great show to watch, they can find Fly Nubian Money too. One last thing, and just in case you've been sitting under a rock, Fly Nubian Money now has an investment club. We are the Fly Nubian Money Club. It's easy. All you have to do is go to flynubianmoneyclub.com, and I am committed to bringing in top experts from all industries to help you level up. They're teaching us the skills that we need to compete in this market. We often say that nobody is coming to save us, not the government, but guess what? We're coming to save us. I'm coming to save you with the Fly Nubian Money Club. So listen, all you have to do again is go to flynubianmoneyclub.com. We have a 30-day free trial set up just for you, just for those people that are struggling. Even if you ain't struggling, you ain't got to struggle. I'm coming. Okay, let me stop playing. I'll see you soon.
I mean, y'all ain't got to struggle. We're here. We are here. We are in the building. And thank you guys so much for your comments in the chat. We see your comments. Thank you for the love. Thank you for the feedback and everything like that. And also, if you want to join, if you're watching this on replay and you want to join the conversation live, make sure you text Queens to 87948. That is Queens, Queens, to 87948. Now, we're going to go back to Nomalanga. So, Nomalanga, so how do incidents like this impact the reputation of this business, which is super important? Like if he does rebuild, well, how does that impact people wanting to come back and like the industry as a whole in the Black community? What are your thoughts on that? Nomalanga, you're on mute.
Sorry.
That's okay.
I was saying, I think it's kind of obvious, unfortunately. I think one of us mentioned earlier that they had, seen a shootout and then they were very reluctant to go back to that restaurant or even that neighborhood. And that actually is true. The one thing that's really also very sad about the restaurant business is by itself, without all these other external factors, it's one of the toughest businesses to build. I don't remember the statistics now because I haven't been teaching in that industry for such a long time, but I remember there used to be stats that we used to share that, I think in 5 years, most of them will have gone out of business. And this is all like, with the right location, good marketing, good food, nothing's gone wrong. It can still go out of business so soon. And now if you add in this added factor of a perception that there's going to be, unfortunately, some Black people that are going to act up or you now feel like you could be harmed, that's going to affect even your business now where you're not, people are just not going to patronize that business. I do also remember a little known fact, Shalaye, I also spent a lot of time living in Boston. I think I lived in Boston for about 10 years. I remember, yeah, well, yeah. I remember,
Yeah.
again, this is a long time ago. I think it was back in the 90s, also early 2000s. There was a
because
club in
you mentioned
Roxbury.
Providence, and I was like, wait a minute, because I used to go
Yeah,
clubbing
we
in
used to
Providence
actually
too.
go clubbing in Boston. I remember there was a reggae club in Roxbury when I was in college. And there was another club in Roxbury also where there was a shooting and the club shut down and was supposed to be temporary. There was supposed to be an investigation or whatever. But from my own experience, I remember never, ever going back. And unfortunately, I think it didn't even open back up because then they wouldn't issue the permit and it was just over for them. Now,
And
supposing that they do get the permit back and they are able to open, then now they have to deal with the perception that this place is not safe.
exactly.
And a lot of people are not coming, and then they will go out of business because there are not enough people patronizing them.
And that's a
So,
great point
yeah.
too,
The one
because
thing that I did appreciate was hearing that there's a GoFundMe, to support them because the other thing that I wanted to add to this conversation about Black businesses is that we don't really have a lot of, in the Black community, you don't have a lot of generational wealth and a lot of legacy success. So when you are done, you're just kind of done. You know what I mean? Whereas if you looked at other families or other communities, they have generational wealth. They have a lot of family wealth and support. And when one business fails, you have your family to kind of help you recover, and then you build back up and you get back up. So that's a very important thing to point out that, when we sometimes fail, it's just over. It's just over because we used everything we
there's not a
had.
second chance.
Yeah, we tried our best. And that's why he's like, okay, that's it. I tried and I'm not doing it again because he probably put everything that he had in there and his family maybe supported him and they're not going to do it again. So it is really a sad situation.
It is very sad. And it's interesting what you say about the perception of Black business, right? Because even when you mention the clubs and everything in Boston and when there's a shootout, oftentimes that's used as an excuse not to issue permits for Black businesses, not to fund Black businesses. It's like, then you become, oh, this is an urban business. And then there's a stigma and a certain unspoken rules around that on the city and state level to even get your businesses up and running. So it can impact us in so many different ways economically, an event like this, because maybe the city of Oakland say, you know what? Nope. If you want to do something like this, we need you to not do it on this block, or, can they start implementing these rules that kind of shut us out of the economic, wealth building in our own community because of these situations? So y'all, we're going to go to some stats. And so impact of crime on Black-owned businesses. 30% of Black-owned businesses reported that crime and violence directly impacted their ability to operate, while 30%, compared to 15% of white-owned businesses. This highlights the heightened vulnerability of Black businesses in areas with higher crime rates. The National Association of Independent Business reports that 1 in 5 small businesses in the US have been affected by crime. Really?
Mm-hmm.
With an estimated 50 billion in losses every year due to property damage, theft, and violent crime. See, I wouldn't have even thought 1
Well,
in 5 businesses in the US are affected by crime.
well, Shalaye, think about it now. You've got these mobs that are getting together and they're going into Nordstrom's, they're going into the high-end places now, and they're just wiping them out. So like that's a big trend that's happening. So it's not only Black businesses that are getting affected. Now you go into Target, well, not Target anymore, but back in the day when you were going into Target and stuff. Now when you go into like Walgreens and stuff, they have locks on everything because the crime and the burglary is so intensified right now.
Yeah.
It really is widespread. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's widespread. Like you can't even just get a thing of toothpaste. You got
Oh, girl, they locked up the deodorant. They got the deodorant locked up.
Right.
You got to call the person,
Baby formula.
cashier, to come over. It's crazy.
So do you know how long you have to wait for somebody to get you some deodorant? Like it's crazy.
It's so crazy.
It is
It's
crazy.
so crazy. And that further, to me, also, that further, you know, undermines us as a community and the perception that we have about ourselves and that other people have about us. When you even see things like that, those are like dog whistle kind of like things that you see, and you just perceive something or a community in a certain way. Venessa, what role do you think that local government and local law enforcement can play in protecting Black-owned businesses? Now, this is a loaded question because we know how government and law enforcement have kind of a lot of times worked against Black people and Black businesses. And then you also want to be careful not to over police a situation. But what do you think about that?
From a policy standpoint, I think that we can't rely on the police to police our communities. I think that we have to police our own communities. And we also, going back to, we have to raise our children to have different mindsets. You know, as we're talking about theft, and if I had to choose the two, right, you see people going in and stealing things from these big box retailers, right? I mean, it's awful, but I feel less sad for them.
Yeah.
But when you see someone come and have gunfire exchange, right? Maybe those people are stealing because they're trying to sell something to get food, or they can't afford deodorant, or for whatever reasons. They're, social economic reasons. But when you see someone go into a restaurant and just shoot up a restaurant because they got beef with someone, that's a different level to me of violence, right?
Yes.
It's so unnecessary.
That's no regard for life.
Yeah, it's completely unnecessary.
Yeah.
It benefits no one. So I mean, I think from a perspective, the only thing that we can do from a policy perspective is not to rely on the police and city government, who have consistently over decades showed us that they're not going to come to our rescue. But we have to change the mindsets of the people within our community, to really look out for one another, to have these kids really to have a different level of respect for the person that's running the businesses on their streets, on their blocks. I mean, even when I was younger in Alabama, we knew all the business owners. Like in Selma, my aunt would talk to them, right? So we would, hi, Mrs. So-and-so, hi, Mr. So-and-so. Like it was a different type of respect level that you have for a business owner in your community. And I think we just really need to bring that back. We need to bring the self-worth back to our children, right? They're out here just reckless and ruthless.
Everything boils down to self-worth. Because if there was a high level of self-worth, you're not walking around looking for some, like shooting up places. You're not looking to resolve a conflict in that way. So everything boils back down to self-worth. And I want to get your commentary on that, Felice, but we're going to go back to the video of what happened for those of you guys who are just joining us. And let's take a look at that video.
Thank you, Oakland. I appreciate this shit. All the fucking hard work, 20 years of fucking working. This is what y'all gave me. Thank you, I appreciate it so much. Shit is just great, man. Worked so fucking hard to build this shit. So many fucking late nights, early mornings for this punk ass shit right here. Coward ass, bitch ass shit right here. Thank you. Thank you so fucking much, Oakland. I appreciate that shit, bro. All you niggas with this punk ass, phony ass, dumb ass beef shit y'all got going on, man. I appreciate y'all, bro. Y'all brought that punk ass shit to a fucking restaurant, the only black owned fine dining restaurant that we have. Thank you. Thank you. I give up. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Wow. So correct me if I'm wrong. Did someone die in this altercation? Does anyone know?
I saw
I'm not
blood.
sure.
I don't know if they died.
Yeah.
That is so crazy. So
And that man's liquor license, I ain't even touch on that. But you know how
yes,
hard it is and expensive it is to get a
yes.
liquor license? And that's where the majority of these businesses make their money off of for restaurants. And it is so hard to get a liquor license. I went to
Right.
a black restaurant in Hollywood recently, and very nice restaurant. They didn't even have a bar. You in the middle. How are you competing with these Hollywood restaurants when you don't even have a liquor license? They've been trying to get one for a year.
And
I don't know how long they'll withstand it.
historically in this country, and I know in the city of Boston, they were blocking Black people from getting liquor licenses. And like I said, there's like this influx of Black owned establishments like eateries and restaurants. That's because our mayor has kind of opened it up and kind of cracked open that good old boys network and kind of opened it up specifically for minorities to apply for liquor licenses because it was locked down. They couldn't get it. So that's also another thing. Will the city even give him back a liquor license? Because they can use a situation like this to say, oh, you're irresponsible. This happened in your establishment. And maybe we won't give you another liquor license. I thought it was interesting looking at the video again, that the caption said he's trying to locate a safer environment. So again, like we've been talking about, extracting that business, that great restaurant that highlights Black cuisine and Black culture and extracting it out of the community and putting it somewhere else. Felice, what do you think about that? And also, like I was saying, like it boils down to our self-worth. This is why this happens. And I know that this is a layered subject and it also boils down to poverty. But I think if they were in there eating in a fine dining restaurant, that they may not, they're not, looking for change. So how does this,
So
how does this relate to the self-worth conversation?
So, Shalaye, y'all know I go back to this all the time. We're gonna have to go back grassroots. We're gonna have to go back boots on the ground. Lord, I love that title. Literally getting into community. We're going to have to build community, and we're assuming that all of these children have parents who can parent. 9 times out of 10, their parents are still children exhibiting arrested development, all kinds of trauma from being in situations that have high poverty. And I'm not saying that all hoods have that, right? I'm not, because I came from the hood and I was pretty smart, but I had a mama who had a mama who did certain things, right? So, but everybody is not afforded that. And so it takes people who have made it. It takes people who know to go back. It takes funding for nonprofits who are doing the work, who are going into communities so that they can get a good footing so that the success that they're making, they can maintain it and not be gone the next year after having made such good progress, because they're considered still a business, but they're not lasting long. So even if they have an impact, how long can that impact last if they don't have proper funding? And so we have to go back into our communities and start building community and look like basic level identity, teaching people about the culture. And I'm talking about who you are and what it means to be you and be Black.
Yes.
And to teach pride in being Black and what it means, because when you know where you come from and you can identify with that, then you start building a pride about what it means to be Black. And then when you build a community, like when we start businesses, before we even start our business in a certain neighborhood, we need to start going out there and getting to know our neighbors. So our neighbors know us. Hey, I'm here. I'm getting ready to establish this business. What can I do to make an impact and let you know that I'm not just here, to have a
Yes.
business, but to be a part of the community. And so
Yes.
that community can start investing in this business that is coming and start understanding and learning and saying, hey, no, we can't bother Mr. Bob Shop.
Right.
Community. He's one of us. And so that's the kind of
Mhm.
stuff that we're going to have to start doing in
That's
order
true.
to be able to come back to our hoods and
Yes.
start building and growing roots and foundations within our community so that we can not only survive but thrive. And I think
That's
that's where it's going to have to start.
Yes. That's a great point that you made. I know that. So I'm a part of my neighborhood association where I live. And anytime there's any business that wants to come into Mattapan or our community, they have to come present to us. And we have to get to know that business. And we want to know what community benefits is this business going to provide for our immediate neighborhood, not for the whole city of Boston, for our immediate neighborhood. If you're going to come and do business here, what are the community benefits that you're going to provide? And they come and they present to us and we get to know them and everything like that.
Can I interject? Because one person was like, well, how do you propose to do this? Well, it's going to start, like, we got to find matriarchs and patriarchs in these communities, people who will already have a relationship with them, because you just can't come into people's communities. So we have to find matriarchs and patriarchs within those communities who are willing to be able to start implementing programming, right? We're the Boys and Girls Clubs.
Yes.
We're
out down too, going door to door.
Going door to door.
That in my neighborhood. We will go door to door with flyers. This is what's happening. We're having a neighborhood meeting.
Right. Community centers. Where are those at? They don't have community centers anymore. So these kids are hanging out at malls now, but who's teaching anything at a mall? And so we gotta find places and communities where there's already matriarchs and patriarchs there who have some kind of relationship, and then start building on those relationships. We have to knock door to door, say, hey, we used to have Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, little groups that are going to start planting positive seeds into our children and teaching them things like manners, respect, identity, etiquette, all of those things. How to talk to an adult. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Mr., Miss. Start with those basics and then start building and then start showing these children that we care.
That's great. Deborah in the comments had mentioned that social media is raising children. And so I know we all have some thoughts about that. When we come back from break, Nomalanga, I would love to get your insights about what you think about that.
Are you a Black business owner looking to expand your reach? Well, has Fly Nubian Money got good news for you? We are building a Black business directory to connect you with customers who need your services. And here is the best part. It is absolutely free. Email us at info@realvirtual.net. Send us your business name. Tell us a little bit about what you do, what services you offer, your website address, and your contact information. That's it. Together, we are going to build and circulate the Black dollar. Get listed today and start connecting with people who are probably already looking for you.
Yes. Y'all sign up. Get on the directory now. Get on the directory. So, Nomalanga, what do you think about that? Social media is raising our children. And I don't know how old the perpetrators were, right? Because we got some young adults and just some grown folks that be out there doing some stupid shit, okay? But social media is raising our children, okay? What do you think about that? And how can we stop that? I know we all have a thought in our mind, but what are some ways that we can stop social media from raising our children? Because it's everywhere. You're on mute.
We can't hear her.
Can you hear us? Uh-oh. What do you think about that, Venessa? Because I know you were like, they're not being.
First of all, social media
raised.
needs to, you know what? One thing I'm for is banning social media for kids. We should it should be banned. There's nothing positive on social media for our children. I don't really care what it is. I think it creates insecurities. It creates, where you're constantly comparing yourself to other people. There's so much misinformation on social media. Like Felice was saying, we need to go back to allowing community leaders, if you don't have a good parent, community leaders and good parents to be the sole foundation of our children. When they get on social media, it's open to a bunch of chaos. I mean, as an adult, me on social media, right? Sometimes I can be like, is this right? Am I tripping? So, I mean, if you can look at social media as a full adult and question yourself and have all these things going on in your head, imagine what it's doing for a kid. I think it should absolutely be banned. I don't think there's no reason for a child to have social media. Like, I can't think of one. If it's monitored by the parent, if you're like a child actress or maybe you're a child entrepreneur, that needs to be managed by a parent, period. I just think that social media has done a disservice to our children. It's beautiful to see. I read a statistic the other day that talked about millennials have increased, like the raising children in two-parent household. I want to say it was like 81% of the millennials have are two-parented households with children. So we see this beautiful increase in family foundation, but then you have this negative effect of social media, right?
Yes. It's counteracting.
Pushing things, teaching things. I feel the same way about social media as some type of music. There's a certain age that you need to be in order to be exposed to certain things, and those are two of the things that I just think serve no benefit
What do you
to our
think about
children.
that?
Did you ask me, Shalaye?
Yeah, what do you think about that? About the
So
whole social media?
I'm not a real advocate of social media for children either. And I sat on a panel with a professor who worked with one of the programmers for TikTok, Asian, and she said their children aren't allowed to be on TikTok. Okay. But they created it.
Meaning the person who created it, her children aren't allowed.
His children aren't allowed to be on TikTok. So the very people who created TikTok, their children aren't allowed on it, and they're willing to pay for the dumbing down of our children. Absolutely. And for their demise. They're willing to pay you for the demise of our children. Yes. And so I want people to just get on alert. Like, even if there is positive stuff, there's this thing called fear of missing out. There's this thing of comparison, right? Like, even when it's good, people still compare themselves to other people. It really does strip away at people's confidence, self-esteem. And I think social media can be a curse and a blessing. And I just think that we have to have some more stronger parental controls. And I'm huge on parenting. And right now, I think because so many people are obsessed with having a lifestyle, that they sacrifice their children and their engagement with children and allow social media to pick up the slack on their engagement with their children so that they can go out there and work those 2 and 3 jobs in order to go on those trips and be able to pay for their high-end Mercedes and be able to dress and look apart, right? And have this lifestyle, but they're sacrificing their children for it and the engagement, because parenting is not easy. It is very, very rigorous.
Yes.
And what makes it that way is because you on your children like white on rice.
Yes.
That means you are with them, you know where they at. And I know when I was raising my daughter, she couldn't stand me because I was always there. And why I told her I was always there, because nobody's going to come knocking on my door asking me, where was your mother?
Right.
Where was your mother, young lady? Oh, they didn't my ass. Because you
right here.
Exactly.
And so
I feel you on that. I so feel you on that. And the thing
is, Shalaye, that's parenting. Your children are with you. And you're engaged with them, and you know where they at, what they doing, and how they doing it.
Yes.
As much as possible.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And it's the whole thing you said with the comparison and the stripping away of your self-worth and your autonomy. Because I feel like even with the social media kids, if they're exposed to it too young, they don't know what's right and there's a gray area of what's right and what's wrong, what you should be doing at a certain age, what you shouldn't be doing. It's just a dangerous thing. So how can we shift from a mindset of like scarcity to one of like abundance? Because this is partly because of that whole self-worth thing and the whole, scarcity mindset. I know that the investigation is ongoing and things like that, and more details will come out, but we have this scarcity mindset that makes us feel like we need to be in competition with each other, or makes us feel like we need to destroy someone else, or we can destroy someone else's business, and that's okay. So how can we shift from that mindset of scarcity to abundance so that Black businesses can thrive despite challenges and despite things that may be going on in the community?
I think that we've seen a shift. I'm very proud of the Black community at the way we're shifting, even right now. The way that we've been, and it's been for a while. The shift has been a long time coming. The way that we're shifting back to being responsible and intentional about where we spend our money at. I see a lot of my Black friends and family have made the shift. I also think, like Dr. Felice was saying, it's important for us, even if we can't be community leaders and we can't actually be the ones going out, just take responsibility for your family, right? Your little cousins, your niece, your nephews, your kids. Just own and take responsibility for them, for their mindset, the way that they think about themselves, how they're supposed to treat adults and Black business owners in the community. Dr. Boyce talks about how you have to be intentional to teach your children to patronize Black. So I think those are the things and the teachings that we also have to pass down to our children. If you are not in a position to be a community leader, just take responsibility for your family members. Everyone has family members who are a little, it can go either way. So if you can create some early intervention with those family members, just take responsibility for them to drop them jewels, drop the kids jewels. But it's really important that our children understand their self-worth very early on. It's very important that they have a respect for their elders and the people in their community that look like them. And so I think that's one of the biggest steps and things that, we could do to just shape Black businesses in general and our community in general.
I would love to add on to that too. It's that because a lot of people think that you have to have a lot in order to do things. And don't get me wrong, in some regards, that is true, right? But if you think about our ancestors, they had way less than we did. Made way less than we make, but they were able to do more with what they had, right? And so it's about, that's how you start shifting the mindset, because a lot of people think, oh, well, I'm poor and I can't do. Well, they didn't have a lot, but what they did have, they made it expand. And that was because they knew how to work with what they had. And so we got to get back to that. And mindset work is rigorous. It really is. And it starts with an individual, and it starts with modeling. So you have to see someone saving. You have to see someone investing. You have to see someone budgeting. You have to start seeing those things and seeing how you can see your money work for you and how your money can grow for you. So it's not necessarily that you have to be a millionaire out the gate, but what do you have with that dollar? So you have to start teaching your children to do something with that dollar. Okay, we're going to take this dollar and we're going to give a percent here. We're going to invest a percent here, and then we're going to do this with this percent. And then this is what you can do with that percent. So when you start teaching them the foundations of what money can do and how you can make it work for you, it'll start creating and shifting the mindset with them about how they can grow and expand what they do have. And then start teaching them that there's enough for all of us to go around. And so scarcity is a mindset.
It is.
And if you can start teaching your children, and I always start with gratitude. When you start teaching your children young how to be grateful for what they have, it'll start shifting their subconscious mind to always be able to see more, to always be able to see the good. And so when you start training your children how to see the good, how to see more, and not necessarily the bad, because there's two forces, negative and positive. They're both equal in their power and they both work.
Yes.
It's just that we work the negative muscle more. So
we
have to
do.
start
And
training
it's almost automatic.
It's almost automatic. You come out
Yes.
with knowing how to do everything negative, cursing, all that stuff, lying, cheating. You come out with you have to teach how to do the positive side. And that's what we have to start teaching our children, how to see the good, how to see the more, how to see the positive, so that they can grow in that mindset work and it's not such rigor. Because when you find somebody older, the rigor of mindset, you know, they kind of give up. It's overwhelming. It's a chore. And so you go back to what feels familiar. But you can create a mindset of abundance. And if you just watch nature and how nature always supplies, we are a part of that rhythm. And so we also are a part of nature. And so there's always more than enough. Always.
Teach, Felice. I love that.
Me too.
You're so right. And I believe that wholeheartedly. But here's the thing, even in believing it, like you said, it's rigorous. It's hard to put it in practice every minute of every hour of every day of every month of every year. It's hard to continuously just put it in practice. But I always fall back to it. I feel grateful, talking about gratitude, that I've been practicing enough, and it took me years to get to that point, right? Whereas it won't take years for other people, because we're having these conversations and we can come to Fly Nubian Money podcast and talk about these things with the queens. This is amazing. I love that. Thank you so much. And you talk about modeling. I think that is so important for us, not only in the community, but like you said, in our individual homes, and modeling what behaviors, and modeling, like I do it with my seven-year-old all the time. She's in this state where she's becoming more self-conscious about herself. And I always tell her, you have a choice. You don't have to think of it in that negative way. Maybe it was like this. And then she'll say, but no, mama, but it was like, but maybe it was like this, or maybe it can be if you choose a different thought, if you choose to look at it differently. And now I see her modeling that back to me when she sees me doing something and I'm frustrated. And she's like, mama, but maybe it didn't need to work out like that. Maybe it can be this. So it's a really beautiful thing. Thank you so much for explaining that. I believe we have another stat, and then we'll go and we'll be out of here in a little bit. This was such a great conversation. This isn't just about building, it's about community, a dream, and a fight to keep something beautiful alive despite the adversity. I promise, this is a letter from the owner of the business. I promise to keep you all updated every step of the way. We're going to rise again, stronger, safer, and even more committed to serving the people. Thank you for believing in us. Chef Cleishon Hill. Y'all, we need to go follow Chef Cleishon Hill. What's the name of the restaurant? Gwen, can you put that back up for 1 second? Pierre. So we need to go to Instagram, flood his account with some love and some support. They've already raised $38,421. The goal is $50,000. So if you guys can find that GoFundMe, and if you have some dollars and some ducats and some change, please feel free to donate and help this brother out. So let's go to final thoughts. Venessa, what's your final thoughts about this situation and this tragedy that happened in Oakland?
So I'm going to give two final thoughts. One is gratitude. I love everything. I want to say I'm just so grateful for this podcast, because if you tune into us and you listen, even when I'm on here, I take a lot of tidbits of what the queens are saying. And modeling is one of the things that Dr. Felice that I've been trying to do with my daughter. So we set her up as a W-2 employee under my company, and she'll be having an investment account where she can take her money and grow. And that's just from being on here, listening to the queens, and just being surrounded by such dopeness. So my final thoughts are that, we are shifting. We're making a shift. Everything is not bad. This is a bad situation that happened from a result of bad decision making from people who did not have much self-worth. And I think that's the core of, for the people that do not have self-worth in our community, we need to really reach out within our own families and really be intentional about building these children up to have self-worth, and to show them that we come from kings and queens, and this is not the way that we behave, and we treat our elders with respect. we respect our business owners, and we respect corporate economics. So if there's somebody in our community that is trying to pour money back into our communities, then those people are kings in our community. So we need to make sure that we have the utmost respect for them. So like I said, if you are not in a position to go out and do something within your community, just take responsibility for the people within your family. And I think that slowly we'll start seeing the shift. We are seeing the shift. So this is a bad situation, but we are shifting. So I'm proud of our community for that. And I just think we need to just continue to shift in a more positive environment and approach it that way. My name is Venessa Gopal. I'm an entrepreneur. You can find me at VGopal. On Instagram, I have all of my stuff on there. I run a construction company in Los Angeles. If you need any type of remodeling services, please hit me up. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much, Venessa. So Dr. Felice, she had to head out, but she gave us an awesome final thought. She dropped the mic on that. That was her final thought. So for me, my final thought, it goes back to that whole thing about self-worth, right? We need to understand who we are and where we come from and why we're here and what our purpose is. And just believing that we have to think higher of ourselves. We also have to hold each other accountable. Like I said, I know that more information will come out about this incident, but we have to hold each other accountable, and don't be afraid to shameful behavior. I feel like we've gotten to the point where we're so politically correct sometimes that we don't snitch, or we don't want to, we want to say things in a certain way. No, we need to start calling things what they are: shameful behavior, and really come through and back up people in our communities who are trying to do great things for the community, for the culture, for Black people, and for Black communities. I'm Shalaye Camillo with Vital Source Realty in Boston. I can help you buy real estate or sell real estate anywhere in the United States. So if you are in need of real estate services, let me know. Also, I will be on with Dr. Boyce in the Dr. Boyce Real Estate Investment Club this evening at 8 p.m. We're going to be doing a teaching session and a live Q&A. So you guys definitely, if you're signed up for it, I will see you there. And if not, I believe you can go to theblackbusinessschool.com and you can sign up for that. And I believe they're having a sale, 76% off. So get involved in the Dr. Boyce Real Estate Investment Club. Thank you guys so much for joining in the conversation. Thank you so much for your comments and your commentary. This was a pretty heavy topic, and I pray and hope that Clay Sean, I believe his name is Clay Sean, rebuilds and comes back better than ever. Thank y'all so much for joining Fly Nubian Money Podcast. We love y'all, and we out.